Through the inside, go. We competing today.
No, there you go.
We're moving.
This is Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh, presented by FanDuel.
The Jets resume a division rivalry today against the Miami Dolphins. Coming up, we'll hear from head coach Robert Saleh, Brian Baldinger, and Ethan Greenberg. But we start, as always, with Bart Scott and Leger Douzable. Mad Backer, can you talk about the Jets' continued commitment to developing young players?
Well, I mean, you talk about the Jets playing more young players than anybody in the NFL. This will pay dividends in the future. You know, they're getting invaluable experience. And even if you don't remain a starter, you know, you've had that experience that everybody can have confidence that you know what you are supposed to do if you get in there. You know, it's like one of those things. It's a process. And I know Jet fans are tired of hearing that it's a process. But you're starting to develop young players. You're starting to strengthen up the depth in your team. Maybe you don't have as many front-end starters as you would like, but now you have guys that's going to have experience that can be swing players, that can find a role and define a role, you know, and it starts here because you want to see who's going to stay on board with all the adversity, who's going to show their character. Like I say all the time, adversity doesn't define character, it reveals it. And, you know, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for guys who aren't melding it in, guys who are still playing hard, guys that are still learning and evolving and starting to, you know, plug up some of the holes in their game.
2-7 record thus far, but give me a couple to a few players who are really catching your eye, who fit that mold as far as young guys taking advantage of their opportunity.
Yeah, I'm going to go all rookies. I'm going to say MC1 and MC2. And first, the Michael Carter running back. He's proven the last few weeks that he can be a true all-purpose back. Runs really physical in between the tackles. The first guy never brings him down. And he's been an asset for the quarterbacks coming out of the backfield. And Michael Carter, too, I don't think anybody saw this. He's playing some of the best football at the secondary position in the slot, more specifically, has real patience at the line of scrimmage, and just does a really good job when the ball's in the air, attacking the wide receiver's hands. And then the pick that I was really giddy about the Jets had was Elijah Vera-Tucker, man. This guy is going to be a superstar at left guard. He plays with so much power, has gotten better in his pass set. There's been a couple times where guys have blitzed the Jets, and he's been able to pick up two guys in blitz protection. So this guy's going to be a superstar for the Jets for a long time. And when Zach Wilson comes back, this will be a guy that will be protecting him probably for the next 5 to 10 years.
Bart, you had to mess with guards a lot during your heyday. What have you seen from Vera-Tucker?
Well, he's very sudden, right? And to Duz's point, you know, he has powerful hands, a quick punch, and he's evolving, right? He's learning, he's adjusting, right? Early on in the season, I think he struggled with, you know, some of the nuance of the game. I think he's starting to plug those holes up. And you really want to see, and I think that Fant has done a great job, but you want to see what that duel is going to look like, left side, strong side, when Becton comes back. And then, you know, you hope that they're able to play together this year so they can get some of that chemistry together, so they can have that verbal and nonverbal communication as they see fronts, they see games, you know, the same way. And you're building a young core, a young nucleus. I like Duvernay. I like on the other side, Morgan Moses is kind of being that wily veteran, that Damon Woody type of guy. And, you know, listen, improvements are yet to come, and everybody can play better. But you're starting to feel confident and feel good about this offensive line. And it's because you have so much young talent mixed with the right, you know, veteran leadership and a little nuance in there.
Coming up, we'll check in with Jets head coach Robert Saleh.
Now it's time to go inside the walls, brought to you by FanDuel.
9 games into your first season as head coach of the New York Jets. Has it been everything you would have expected?
No, tough question, and that, you know, we wish we had some more wins, but the growth and the learning that's been happening inside these walls have been has been a good thing. It's been a positive experience in that regard, and it's just, you know, it's really looking forward to these next 8 games, and especially this one coming up versus Miami, to see our growth and to see us get better week in and week out.
Yeah, I think people, when they hear growth, they always think in terms of players. How much is this staff going to grow from the time together?
You know, we call them scars. There's battle scars. There's players, coaches. We're all, even for myself, we all experience them. We all get them, and we all learn off of our mistakes. We all learn off of our success stories, all of it. And so the amount of growth that's not only going to happen for players and coaches, but for the entire organization, there's still a lot of growth to be had, especially over these next 8 weeks, where we're just, again, trying to get better, trying to get these games under control, and to try to find some W's here in the second half of the season.
From a time perspective, how much different is it being in your spot now as opposed to being a coordinator?
You know, time-wise is the same. You're in here and we're grinding and we're trying to watch tape, and you know the amount of areas you're being pulled in is different from a head coaching standpoint. You know, from a coordinator level and a position coach level, you're just behind a screen watching game film the entire time. And at this level, there's a whole lot of other moving parts, and to be able to dedicate all your time to film, especially here, is probably not as realistic. But at the same time, you've got to find time and you got to be able to work and keep it moving and keep yourself alert.
You have such a great relatability about yourself. What's the interactions like with the players now? Because you have to take a step back and look at the entire operation, but I know that means a lot to you still.
You know, a lot of it goes through the coaches. You know, there's, you know, we're hard on ourselves as coaches, and we try to do our best to message things the exact same way and to keep things strong with regards to how we're messaging and what we want and what we expect out of ourselves to deliver to our players and vice versa. And so from a messaging standpoint, being able to coach the coaches, because they're the ones who have the most intimate relationship with the players. And then obviously when I've got my moments to be able to communicate it, you know, take every last advantage I can, because they, you know, players are what make this thing work, you know, forever and a day. And the best run organizations are the organizations that run itself. And our players are moving in that direction, and they're starting to understand what we're asking of them. And it's going to be awesome when it takes off.
Week to week league. But what do you want to see from the group over these final 8 games?
I want to see us get better. There's a lot of fight in our team. I know they're playing their butts off, and there's a lot of youth. There's been a lot of turnover, especially on the defensive side of the ball, at the safety position and DN spot. And I just want these guys to have some continuity, get communication stronger, continue to play and understand the precision at which we have to operate, and understand how teams are starting to attack us. You know, it's been 9 games now, and there's a pattern at which we've been attacked, both run game and pass game, and want to see each side of the ball get better in terms of their technique, their communication, their ability to recognize pre-snap what's happening to them, and see if we can pick up our speed and our overall football IQ. And I think we're moving in that direction, and it's just a matter of putting it on tape and showing the world that we know what the heck we're doing.
Now, I know the defense is not playing up to your standards, but if there were a couple things that you could point to and say, we have to get better in these areas and the rest will come along.
You know, the big thing really is eliminating the explosive plays that are happening to us. You know, against Buffalo last week, too many balls over the top of the defense, too many lost one-on-ones on the edges, some miscommunication that allowed some of those shots to get over our head, and those are things that as coaching staff we've got to be relentless in terms of making sure that our communication is very simple, and as players we got to be relentless in executing. And you know, so if we can eliminate explosives from the defensive side of the ball, we can eliminate the amount of points that are being scored.
C.J. Mosley said guys have to look at their inner self right now. Do you like hearing that from your leader, and is that what you expect?
You expect that from a guy like C.J. who's self-driven, who's internally motivated, but coaches got to look internally too, and we've got to figure it out together. It's not a coaches coach, players play atmosphere around here. We're all in this together. We play these games together. We study this game together. We're creating game plans together, and so for all of us, we have always got to let you always look internal first. As a coach, how do you message things better so the player understands it? And then as a player, are you taking in the information that you need to play at your to the best of your ability? And if you don't understand it, are you studying and asking the right questions to make sure you do? So it's all of us encompassing are always in it together.
Where is Zach Wilson's mind at right now, and how's he progressing physically?
He's progressing good physically. His mind's, I mean, he's a very strong-minded young man, and he's in the right place. You know, I thought he did a nice job with practice last week in terms of getting a feel back. I know his knee isn't quite 100%. Wasn't quite 100% last week, and you know, he's been, for a rookie, he's out for a month and trying to get back into the football aspect of it, get his fundamentals down, reconnect to the offense and the different verbiage and some of the new verbiage that has come up over the last few weeks. So he's in a great spot, and we're looking forward to him getting healthy.
And lastly, what about this stretch at home? You played at home last week, of course. This is your second consecutive game at MetLife Stadium, but 4 of 5 overall, and then I think 6 of 8 to finish the season.
Whole back half of the schedule, really a good chance for us to get our legs back and try to, especially with 9 straight games, playing 9 straight games, which is not easy, but to have back-to-back home games sandwiched between a road game all the way through for the rest of the season is I won't call it a relief, but it's I guess it's the least the league could do, giving us 9 straight games to finish out the season.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Jet Game Day with Robert Saleh is brought to you by Pepsi, the official soft drink of the New York Jets. Up next, we'll go inside the film room with Brian Baldinger, and Ethan Greenberg will preview Week 11 in the AFC East. Jet Game Day with Robert Saleh is brought to you by FanDuel.
Welcome back. Eric Allen with Bart Scott, Leger Douzable. Bart, on paper anyway, the Jets' schedule is about to lighten up. 5 of the next 6 opponents have under 500 records.
Yeah, but those are things that you have to be careful about, right? When you start looking at the schedule and starting to pencil in wins, because the same way that you're looking at those teams, they're looking at you, right? And usually what happens is they're evenly matched teams. They're about in the same, part of their process. You think about the Dolphins, you think about the Texans, and what you say is, okay, they're in the same process. They have some of the same issues that we have, but it's about who's going to come out and execute and who's growing and who's starting to plug up the holes and starting to play efficient, mistake-free football. And that's usually what it comes down to. So, those games become very must-see TV, and you hope that people can rise up to the occasion. But it's no gimmies in the NFL any week. Just ask Tampa.
How about that finish?
Yeah.
The defensive line, everything for the Jets defensively is predicated on them at least being dominant. They're not playing up to their standards. How much do injuries play a factor in what we're seeing right now? No Carl Lawson, no Vinny Curry. People will say, we knew that since the beginning of the season, but Bryce Huff has also been out.
Yeah, Bryce Huff has been a major loss, especially in the pass rush game. But to me, it comes down to execution. The D-line for the last 4 weeks hasn't really executed as far as guys, backdooring blocks, getting cut off, getting reached. Injuries have played a factor, but it's also been the execution from the D-line.
That's what happens when you start to struggle. People go outlaw, right? We always say quit farming other people's land. And what happens is when things are struggling, you try and go outside of yourself and do too much. You have to do your job, because if you're trying to do somebody else's job, then who's doing yours? And that gives the coaches 2 people to correct, not 1. So it's always important that you stay the course and play the defense as called. And you can't, and listen, I always tell my linemen, if you go outlaw, you better make that play, because I'm getting hit in my mouth and now I'm fighting with a dude 350 pounds when I'm not supposed to.
You know who's doing his job? Brian Baldinger. Let's get to him in the film room.
Hey, thanks, EA. I want to take a look at Tua Tagovailoa, who came in and replaced Jacoby Brissett in their last game and helped them to a victory against the Ravens. The Jets will see Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback on Sunday. Came off the bench against the Ravens. Made throws like this, not a lot of them, but that's their number 1 target, is Jalen Waddle, the rookie number 1 pick. He's got great speed. Now, they do a lot of pre-snap motion, all right? You have to keep your eyes in the right place. But this is just a max protection right here. They're taking a shot to Jalen Waddle down the field. They need more of these offensively. They don't get enough of them, but they do have ways to get the ball down the field. And then they like the pistol formation, all right? They like pre-snap motion. And Tua, if you make a mistake, he's going to see the mistake. Like right here, the Ravens don't cover Albert Wilson. Tua sees it right away and gets the ball to him. That was the biggest play of the day for the Dolphins. They have not had many big plays like that. And the closer you get to the goal line, they're going to be looking for Mike Gesicki. Now, they didn't get it to him against the Ravens, but they're looking for him. In fact, I don't think they completed a pass to Gesicki in this game. However, he's their number 1 target in the red zone. He's 6'6". He's got a 40-inch vertical leap. They like to put it up on the rim and let him go get it.
This is the AFC East Roundup.
Taking a look around the AFC East, the Patriots' win streak extended to 5 after they beat the Falcons in Atlanta Thursday night. They now sit at 7-4, still in second place in the division. I know it looks kind of funny, but the winning percentage still less than the Buffalo Bills, but they could leapfrog the Buffalo Bills if Buffalo loses. So let's start in Orchard Park, where the Bills take on the Colts at 1 p.m. And this is a rematch from last January's Wild Card weekend, a close game that the Bills won 27-24. The Colts enter this game on a 2-game winning streak, and the Bills have the NFL's number 1 defense, but the last time they played a running back of Jonathan Taylor's caliber was in Week 6 against Derrick Henry and the Titans, when Henry ran for 143 yards and 3 touchdowns. Taylor now tied with Henry with 937 rushing yards. That's the most in the NFL. And last year in the playoffs against the Bills, Taylor had 78 yards and a touchdown. Wrapping up with the Jets, they host the Dolphins, who enter Sunday's game on a 2-game winning streak after dropping 7 straight. And this is going to be Miami quarterback Tua Tagovailoa's first start against the green and white. He did play against the Jets last year. It was his NFL debut, but he only took 5 snaps in a shutout win for Miami. And the Jets have a chance to leapfrog the Dolphins in the standings with a victory. So will the Bills extend their AFC East lead? And will the Jets get their first win inside the division? Kickoff is around the corner.
Don't go away. We're back with final thoughts on the matchup with Miami after this. Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh is brought to you by MetLife.
Welcome back, Eric Allen with Bart Scott, Leger Douzable. Jets Dolphins today. Bart, what do the Jets have to be in order to be successful offensively against a Miami defensive unit that has really come on of late?
Well, you have to have your hot routes ready because they were super aggressive the last time we saw them against the Baltimore Ravens. You have to have your hots, in order. You have to understand if you have them all blocked up or you don't have them blocked up. And when you catch them in those type of defenses where they coming out and they're coming after you aggressive, like you make them pay over the top. You have to have your cover zero plan in place, right? Because they're going to force you to get rid of the ball. Guys have to understand they're hot, break off their routes, make sure you have it all picked up. And if I'm a quarterback, you have to make sure that you're able to retreat long enough to get somebody open on a route or a drag route and be able to take advantage of it when it presents itself. You must have a plan for cover zero.
How difficult has it been, Leger, this year that the Jets have played 4 quarterbacks through 9 games?
Yeah, you want stability at any position, but more specifically, you want it at the quarterback position. But what the Zach Wilson injury did, it allotted, Joe Douglas and the head coach, Robert Saleh, to really evaluate some of the younger players. We saw Mike White in there the last 3 weeks and been able to evaluate him. You've been able to evaluate Josh Johnson, who had to come in for Mike White, the Indianapolis Colts week. So, yes, you want stability and you want to have your franchise quarterback, but when you have a young team and you also want to see progress throughout this young team, you got to be able to evaluate everybody, and that's including the quarterback position. So the injury was unfortunate for Zach Wilson, but it also allotted this team to really evaluate some of their young quarterbacks.
Do you think Zach Wilson can benefit from this time away? We talked about it before, but now it's been 3+ weeks.
Well, you would think that this would be a soft landing, right? Coming back, supposedly a soft landing, that's hard to say in the NFL. Yeah. But coming back against opponents that you should have a chance, talent-wise, to be able to go against, should be able to defense and the offense, evenly matched teams should be able to create an opportunity for him to show his growth, to show what he's learned from the sideline. Before you heard him in previous weeks saying that he should be more like Mike White. What does that really mean? That means getting back, processing pre and post snap, recognition, understand where to go with the ball, understanding where your hots are at, and getting the ball out of your hands and allowing your playmakers to make plays. That's what he should have learned, and that's what I think he was alluding to when he said he should be more like Mike White.
Is this going to be a low-scoring game today? You're talking about the Dolphins, who excel defensively, and then the Jets. We've talked about the quarterback position, what they're going through right now. Both teams averaging under 18 points a game.
Yeah, on paper, it looks like it's probably going to be a slugfest and a low-scoring game. Both offenses have really struggled. Tua came into that game later on last week versus the Baltimore Ravens and showed really well. They schemed up some plays where they got Albert Wilson on a wheel route wide open. He hit him for 57 yards. So that was where majority of his passing yards came from last week. But if you're playing Tua Tagovailoa, you have to realize he likes to throw in between the hashes. You got to take that away from him. And on defense, Bart alluded to it. They're gonna blitz you and go a lot of cover 1, cover 0. But they also will try to trick you and blitz and go some zone coverage where they'll drop some D linemen out of there. You got to think. Brian Flores was in New England with who? Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick has already played in this offense twice, so he'll be looking at that film. So you have to realize where you need to go with the football because they're going to come with pressure.
Jets and Dolphins kick off at 1 p.m. We're about to find out if the green and white can get their first AFC East win in the Robert Saleh era. Make sure you tune into Jets Overtime on all our digital platforms following the game.